Sarah here, welcome back to my channel. It's absolutely been a hot minute. Apologies if I sound awful. I am sick as a dog. I will listen back to this and it's really awful to listen to. I'll just do a voiceover at a later date. I might just prepare everything and I'll just give you a bit of a life update while I prepare. I'm obviously going to do some ink swatching. I haven't done swatching in a really long time. Just like to say it's just been a year is a bit of an understatement, and I've definitely just in that kind of frozen part of fight, flight or freeze, and I guess what's come alongside that is just not going towards the things that I enjoy, like swatching being one of them, which is silly because swatching brings me so much joy, and it actually has quite a therapeutic element to it, for me at least. But I guess that's kind of the way, you know, when you're not feeling yourself, you also then tend to not do things that are or that bring you joy. I don't know if I said in my little journal update video, my dad had major surgery like a month and a half ago. He was just starting to feel himself, and he now has pneumonia and rhinovirus. There's an outbreak of COVID in my office. I'm testing negative, but between all of that and the fact that I'm immunocompromised and have 2 kids in daycare, who knows what I have, you know? But we will persevere. So I have a bunch of ink here. I bought myself a pen a little while ago from the Desk Bandit, and I got a couple of, I purchased a couple of ink samples along with that. And then my brother and sister-in-law for my birthday got me a voucher to Pulp Addiction, so 2 really awesome Aussie stationery stores, and so I was able to get myself a really beautiful notebook and a bunch of ink from there as well, including some Diamine inks that I wanted to try for a really long time. So let's have a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I've got 18 inks to, ooh, don't do that, swatch here. It's obviously not going to be in one video. One of the bottles I've definitely swatched before and swatched more than once, and that's Diamine Earl Grey. It's such a favourite of mine that I knew buying a bottle wouldn't go to waste, so I did purchase a bottle of that. So that could be one that we don't swatch, but just seeing, I guess, seeing how I feel and how long the videos go to, I'll find a way to, I guess, in terms of what makes sense to me, to break it up. What I also thought I'd do in this video, and I haven't even checked, is I do kind of paint little swatches in here, and I usually do that off camera, but I wanted to see what it would be like at the end of swatching to swatch in here also, because it kind of will enable us to do a bit of like a colour comparison at the same time. Yeah, so my only other, I guess, update in terms of this video is I have absolutely been, well, was loving doing the sandwich bag, you know, snap lock bag swatching. My dad asked me quite randomly out of the blue a couple weeks ago why I don't use the measuring cup anymore. And I didn't really have an answer. I guess you just go through different things, but considering he's been going through such a tough time, I thought I would go back to the measuring cup. Maybe not for all of these videos, but even just for 1 or 2, just to, yeah, because he was asking about it, and so that's really all there is to it. So I'll put this to the side. In terms of other gear, it's all the same. I have my little syringe, I have my Pilot Iro Utsushi. I'm going to use the fine nib and just a little paintbrush. Move the scissors out the way. Put this one to the side here. Got some Scott towels or paper towels as well, and oh, that would have been loud. Maybe I can rest my little. So, oh, and of course, cup of tea. So the way I've split this just in front of me is I have 3 ink samples, each of a different brand. that are kind of to the side. 2, 4, I've got 8 Robert Oster samples, and I've got 2, 4, 6, 7 Diamine inks. But I guess if I take the Earl Grey away, I've got 6, and maybe I can split that. And there's a few different kind of themes and series. What I'm going to start with is actually 3 Diamine inks. Am I? And maybe with the bigger one, actually. So, yep, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with 3 Diamine inks, these all being from the music series. So I've got Vivaldi, which I have used before and loved, so I wanted to use it again. And then 2 I've never used before, but I've always wanted to try Wagner, and the prices of Diamine bottles on Pulp Addiction are so good that I bit the bullet, and I'm really liking greens at the moment, so I went with that. And then I've got Chopin, which is a looks like a really, really dark blue, if not a purpley blue black. So I'm going to open up. I'm going to need a new notebook soon. I've got a couple of spare pages in there. So just let me bring this into frame. It's not going to lay down for me, is it? Let me have a look here. Maybe do a bit of a zoom in. So you know what I'm thinking, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that works. I'm going to actually add these 2 little. So Pulp Addiction is selling some of the little Inkvent inks from previous Inkvent calendars. I've actually never tried an Inkvent ink before. It's a 12 ml bottle, which I just thought was great. And they were, I think these cost $7.95. So I think in US it would be maybe around like $4 or $5 US, give or take. So I went with those as well. So maybe I'll do the music and the 2 little Inkvent ones. Where do we want to start? Let's start with the one I know. How about with the one I already put in there? So we're going to start with Diamine Vivaldi. And we will go from there. I've been telling myself all week, you know what, do some swatching on the weekend. You always feel like you really enjoy doing it. I don't know why you've just kind of paused or pulled yourself away from fountain pens and ink so completely, which I have. And then, you know, you feel guilty because you've got ink sitting there and da-da-da-da-da, but I just haven't been in the headspace for it. Of course, it's going to go in there. And then one night this week, I couldn't sleep, and I watched a couple of Chris Saines's videos. And she's just such a joy to listen to, and it felt actually quite inspiring. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And so, of course, then I woke up really unwell. But that's okay. So off the bat, this is Diamine Vivaldi. It's a really, really beautiful dark purple. From memory, it can have a bit of a black halo to it, which I also really like. I love these super, super dark purples. I get so much joy in writing with them. We'll see what the writing experience is like with this nib. And I'll just write in here, music, and this is, oh man, I did it already. So of course I make a mistake on the very first one, but that's kind of just in line with my life at the moment. Hasn't been a great year. And I resigned myself to the fact of like 2024, is that what we're in? It's just not my year. Then hopefully it's like, could it just not be this financial year? And maybe like from next week, because I'm filming this on the 22nd, maybe, you know, next financial year would be my year. How amazing would that be? But in terms of this ink, I love it. And you can start to see the little bits of black showing through there. This is actually the only ink of the music series that I've ever tried. A pen friend of mine sent me an ink sample ages ago, and I just ate it up from memory. I had it inked in a TWSBI Eco, and it just was a beautiful writing experience. Now, I know I said I would do the swatches in this other book at the same time, but I just feel like there's too much going on, so I'm going to change course on that already and not do that, and really just focus on what's in front of me. Do we want to zoom in even a little bit more so we can just really see what's going on there? You can tell I haven't swatched in a while because I'm like a bit all over the place. Next up, let's go for the bottle. So this is Diamine, again, music series, and this is Wagner. I don't know if you can see the little swatch on the side of the bottle there. I'm really loving these kind of olive green inks. I just think there's something really beautiful about them. So let's go in here. And why don't we do a big bit? 1, 2. And because it's me, even though I need to write in a second, I'm going to put the lid back on because I would spill it. I would love to know how everyone else is traveling at the moment. It is so cold here. Ooh. It's punchier than I thought it was going to be. Like it's got like, you can really see the yellows coming through. I thought it was going to be a bit more muted. Really interested to see though how it dries. And I do wonder if it's going to be one of those ones that then, depending on the pen, that level of kind of yellow saturation varies quite a bit. But that's really beautiful. I mean, already here, you can see just the different levels of shading that are going to come through. I don't know if you can see right in there, the contrast, but that it's a really beautiful olive green. I'm thinking like, is it like emotional olive is what it's reminding me of? Let's have a look here, see if I can pull up some greens. Of course, I'm not going to be able to find them. That's really beautiful. I think, yeah, Terranishi Emotional Olive. It's a little bit different to kind of the Inoho Goose Poupon, that whole colorway. There's definitely more yellow in there, but I think that's really beautiful. Let's see how it writes. So straight off the bat, what is obvious to me is it's much wetter compared to the Vivaldi. And not to say that the Vivaldi was dry by any means. It's just something that I can notice as soon as I put that nib to paper. The way it just glides was just so much more obvious. It had a really beautiful writing experience. And I think a little bit of what I was kind of querying before has some truth to it, being that first real punch of yellow you saw when it goes down wet isn't as obvious in the writing sample, and it's drying to this really, really awesome, it's like a mix between like an olive green and a mustard kind of. That's just a beautiful ink. Bring that up there. Not sure if it's just disrupted the paper a little bit there in the middle. I think it may have, and I don't have blotting paper underneath, and I should have because it's bled through, but maybe I just put too much down. But then look at how it's dark. Like, look at the darker bits there. That's just gorgeous. And noticing actually on that Vivaldi, there's a bit of a brown sheen coming through as well. Gorgeous. It's actually, this is the Traveler's Notebook. It's very rare that the paper kind of gets disturbed like that, so I may have really just put too much down, and I haven't used a measuring cup in so long that maybe I'm putting a bit too much pressure as well, because I know with the Snaplock bag it really doesn't need much pressure at all, and maybe I'm just kind of overcompensating a little bit, but that's okay. So just clean my syringe to the side here. The last one in the music series that we have is chopping. Chopping. It's not the nicest. It doesn't sound very nice with an Australian accent, does it? Oh, just chopping, mate. Just chopping it up. Just chopping up. Let's give this a go. What happens if I kind of do it like that? All right. And I'm not pressing down as hard just to see. Hopefully I don't kind of damage that paper in the way I did before. Ooh. So it's a blue, but it's really bordering blue-black, isn't it? There's a real depth to that, which is really nice. Anyone who's watched my videos before knows I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with blues, but I do think you can find some, at least for me as someone who doesn't gravitate towards them naturally, that are really nice. And I think in that blue-black categories is something for me. Just trying to wonder if there's a little bit of sheen coming up there. I have a feeling this is going to have quite a nice writing feel to it, just purely of how easily that measuring cup just kind of glid across the page, turned across the page there. Yeah, that just is really smooth. Music. No, I didn't put blotting paper down, and I feel like I'm just going to make my bed and not try and go and find it and do it now, just kind of live with it. And the sheen is coming through on that straight away. I will lift it up to the camera so you can have a closer look. So 3 from the Diamine music series. These 3 are all from Pulp Addiction. You've got Vivaldi there, Wagner in the middle, and then Chopin down below. Looking at it through the camera, it looks a lot cooler on the camera, like it almost looks like a blue-black grey, whereas in the natural light, like that sheen is a lot more apparent. I'm not sure why. Just trying to get it to catch the light, which I can't get it to do, unfortunately. But the sheen brings a warmth to it that I'm just not totally sure it is coming through on camera, unfortunately. But those 3 are really beautiful, quite different, but beautiful inks. A little bit of bleed through there, but I don't mind. And I think as I swatch over it, I don't know, I'm not a perfectionist in that sense. The last 2 Diamine inks I'm going to do on this page are from the Inkvent, and I actually don't know off the top of my head what Inkvent they're from. I was just looking through the different ones, and these 2 caught my eye. If you haven't noticed that I'm really liking greens at the moment, and always a purpley burgundy is something I'm always going to love. I just noticed it because I know with the Inkvent inks, there's the shimmer, the this, the that, the chameleon, and so on these bottles they do actually let you know. So these ones are both standard. And I just think, I mean, it's hard because that's a 12 ml, right? And then that's a 30 ml, and that costs $10. So, you know, per mil, this is obviously much better value. But to try different inks out when you're wanting a little bit more, or to be able to share with a pen friend, I do think these were great little purchases. Let's go with Cashmere Rose first. I like the sound of that. I'm hoping that one of the kind of descriptive words that comes to mind when I swatch it is something like soft or velvety or decadent, because that's kind of what I think of when I think of the word cashmere. And fun tip, my middle name is Rose, so there you go. So I'm just going to have a sip of tea. I've been, pardon me, as you saw in my little like journal doodling videos, I've been, oh my God, just seeing this on the needle. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to love this. I've been doing just tons of kind of like, whether you call it mindless or mindfulness doodling. at the moment, and loving every minute of it. I've kind of made my way through half a notebook already, and I don't know why I'm just drawn to doing like just these kind of pattern-esque with a black fine liner over and over again. Oh, I love that. Wow, that is beautiful. So, what's jumping to mind there? It's like a muted dark pink, but it has this lightness to it. It does feel very soft and delicate, maybe more than decadent. I don't know why in my head if it was decadent it would be darker. There's no rhyme or reason to that. That's just sometimes how the weirdness of my brain works. But that softness to it, and then the little bits of shading and the is it like a red or a burgundy maybe undertone that's coming through, but then it's not actually a burgundy ink. I think that's really beautiful. If I'm going to go pink, this is definitely the type of pink I'm going to look at, that kind of muted, darker, sitting in between colours type of thing. That's really beautiful. I'll bring it up closer in a second. Actually looks quite different on the nib compared to the swatch. It looks a lot more orange there. So that's interesting. Oh, I should have written that in capitals, but that's okay. First video back, it's going to be a bit loosey-goosey. That's actually really interesting. I wonder why there's such a difference there. There we go. So to me, this is just so pinky and warm, but in here, this kind of orange, like little bit kind of comes through, or even like a brown burgundy, whereas that's more like a pink burgundy. I actually like both versions. It's just interesting that, for me, at least to the naked eye, there's such a difference. It felt nice on the nib, I guess, just having done the chopping, though it definitely didn't feel as wet as that. But that's, again, not to say by any means it's a dry ink, I guess. Just feeling the difference. Ooh, that's beautiful. Okay, where's it gone? Last but not least, Weeping Willow. I chose this one purely, I mean, I like greens, but I just really I thought Weeping Willow was just a great name for an ink, to be honest. I don't know why it got to me, so we're going to give that a go. Interesting, because the outside looks quite green, but looking on the inside, there's quite a bit of brown kind of coming through when just looking at it next to the plastic. Just clean my syringe here. I always wonder if it sounds weird kind of hearing water be forced out of a syringe off camera. Alas. All right, last but not least, and I'll finish the video after this. This has been a bit of a all over the place loose one back. But I feel like I have said before, if you were in the mood for really clean cut, well put together, aesthetically pleasing videos, well, you know by now that mine aren't going to be that. And that's, I'm not saying that to like undersell myself. I mean, at this point, I've been away from YouTube for so long that, whoa. I don't even know what I was going to say. Wow. Okay, so I think we need to completely rethink just calling that a green, because that has this like warm light brown and then this green coming in over the top of it. That's incredible. Whoa, that is stunning, and such a great name for that ink. The nature and the plant and the muddy water, like that all just comes through so clearly. How does this write? Let's have a look. Okay, so it feels a touch dry, but this is a fine nib. So maybe it's just thinking about the pen that you put it in. Willow. It's on the lighter side, but again, it's a fine nib, it's a fine nib. And this is one, I mean, sometimes I struggle with light inks, but when it's that beautiful, it's definitely something I'd want to persevere on with. That is, to me, can you see the differences there in the colours through that? It kind of reminds me of some of those Sailor Chroma shading inks. You're not getting that as much in the writing sample, but for me, looking at this, I need to find the right pen to put that in. I'll zoom out a little bit here so you can just see there. They are 5 Diamine inks, all from Pulp Addiction, thanks to a very generous voucher from my brother and sister-in-law. Music series, we have Vivaldi, Wagner and Chopin, and then Cashmere Rose and Weeping Willow. That was just a dark horse. I was not expecting the swatch to look like that. That's just blown my mind. I thought I actually was going to like the music series ones more than the Inkvent, and I'm going to flip that on its head, because these two, I just want to get into a pen. They're actually inspiring me to ink pens up again, which feels great when you haven't been inspired to do that for a while. I'll just do a slow... Oh, I hope the camera does that justice, because that is beautiful. All right, there you have it, guys. Thank you for sticking with me through this rusty video. Even just doing this for 10 minutes or so has reminded me there is so much joy in this hobby, and I love the exploration side of it. I need to keep reminding myself not to be so hard on myself, or do, even if it's quote-unquote funny, that self-deprecating of messing things up. It really doesn't matter, because what does matter is how good actually just this 10 minutes made me feel, and how simple things like looking at ink can be so inspiring and so calming and so everything else. I really hope my voice and my blocked sinuses hasn't been too hard to listen to. I'm blown away by that ink. That feels so cool. It's a nice feeling. All right, I will see you guys soon. Bye.